Glad to see you back for more. And if it's your first time, stay tuned for facts, action, insight, and a smoke flavor-filled podcast. It's All Day with JJ. Let's get into it. Man, what's been going on, guys? It's been quite some time since I've been able to come on here and actually talk sports and talk about what's been going on in today's atmosphere surrounding sports. I've been traveling a lot, doing some things for some personal reasons, some jobs and whatnot, and taking care of business. But now I'm back, and it's actually perfect timing for me to be able to come in and speak about what's going on right now in the sports world, right? I mean, I think we just basically had October, the end of October, which gives us the sports equinox where you have, the NBA just now kicking off. The NFL is kind of already in full swarm, going into week 8 or 9, right? And then you've also got the NHL kicking off as well. But ultimately, you've got the MLB ending, right, with the World Series. And I don't know if you've been paying attention to any recent MLB news or sports news, but the Texas Rangers actually are the World Series champions, man. Let's go ahead and give that a clap, right? Let's go ahead and support that because I am a Dallas fan, right? The Texas Rangers came through this year against the Diamondbacks, actually coming through on the road as road warriors, some might say, super consistently, even starting off with their first playoff run, going up against the Tampa Bay Rays, whooping them in a 2-0 best out of 3 series, right? Leaving the Rays, going up to Baltimore, playing the Orioles, beating them. I think that was a best of 5, right? So they won 3. I think they swept them 3-0, and then from there transitioning into the ALCS against the none other than crosstown rival, the Houston Astros, who, on a side note, have actually made it to the ALCS 7 years in a row, right? That is insane. Like, you think about it, it's 2023. They've been coming here since 2017, 2018, right? And you look at that Astros team, the Rangers are actually coming into the Astros super hot, barely sneaking by them, winning 4-3 in a game 7, right? Adolis Garcia showcasing his incredible ability, and that kid is special right there alone if you break into his story. But before we go there, just talking about the Astros, man, I mean, let's look at some of these guys on that team coming into that 7th year. I mean, you had Altuve, who's definitely a vet, and he's actually has a crazy stat. He's second in most postseason home runs behind none other than Manny Ramirez. Not sure if any of you know who that is. I actually used to be a big Manny fan, had a poster in the wall and everything like that. He's got 29. But Altuve, we're talking about the second baseman, the middle infielder who's barely 5'5", you know what I mean? He's barely 5'5". He can probably stand just a little bit above of a doorknob, right? Just throwing some shots out there against Altuve because I am a Ranger. But all in all, this kid starts off the Astros lineup, right? He's the number 1 guy. He's probably got the, normally in baseball, the number 1 guy he probably has the most on-base percentage or the highest on-base percentage. That's why you probably lead him off. A nice little quick guy. Might be a center fielder or a middle infielder, depending on, how you like to play the game. But this kid starts off this already powerful, stacked lineup with guys like, Alvarez, even Bregman, man. Shout out to LSU and Abreu, even Brantley. Like, I just named 4 other guys in addition to Altuve. You got 9 guys in the lineup, so that's 5 guys right there. They're already top heavy with great hitters. Bregman, I mean, this kid has been on fire for the Astros ever since he, made his debut on the major league base, and it's like, coming from LSU, he was always, all world as far as a Tiger, you know what I mean? So it's like, you look at him, Jordan Alvarez just standing like a towering unit in the box, hard to get past him. I mean, Brantley, he even has a hell of a story where his father, I believe, is his main hitting coach. Like, you see pre-games and Brantley's father's there, like, managing, watching his swing, basically analyzing it mid-swing and telling him, like, hey, you know what, during BP, you need to do this. You're swaying to the right, or you're stepping over your turning hip. You know what I mean? It's forcing you to drop your shoulder, things like that. So it's like, these guys are very, very much so baseball solid all through and through. And then not to mention the man behind it all, the man, the magician, the ventriloquist himself, Dusty Baker, man. I mean, this guy has been in baseball for quite some time. He's been known as one of the big pillars, especially in relation to, the Negro leagues and Negro players and things like that. And Dusty Baker, man, he's the reason why the Astros have been to the ALCS 7 years in a row. And he actually, sadly, after the loss, comes out and says that he's going to retire. But shout out to Dusty Baker. So enough hype on the Astros. Circling it back to the Rangers, bro. This Rangers ball squad. And in case if you're just now tuning in, you're just now listening, you don't already know. This segment of sports is basically going to be about my Rangers, right? And then I'm going to possibly break into some other news surrounding other leagues. But getting back to the Rangers, let's look at that ball squad. Earlier we were talking about Adolis Garcia, right? This kid is coming out of St. Louis, right? He's been with the Rangers since 2020. Beforehand, he barely got, he was drafted, but he spent most of his career kind of playing in the minors, not really panning out. He gets to the Rangers, boom, makes it onto the main team. And then you look at this kid in the postseason, he's going crazy. I mean, he's always been a good 4, 5, 6 hitter for the Rangers throughout the entire season. And, I'm just going to sit here and go ahead and confess, with the Rangers season going on this year, I probably might have watched, luckily, maybe 15% of the games, 15, 20% of the games, just checking stats here and there, randomly just checking the Rangers and their record. And of course, they make it to the postseason. It's almost like it's a remnants of what happened to all those people who were Texas Rangers fans back in 2010, 2011, right? I myself was a super young buck coming out of middle school, going into high school, was definitely involved, loved the Rangers, man, was currently playing baseball for the school and things like that, playing summer ball. And you look at the Rangers team, right? We had never won a World Series, right? We never won a World Series until this past series of 2023, right? And it's like you look at the Rangers that year, they had some greats, man, like Adrian Beltre playing over at third. I could almost tell you, at least 30 to 40% of their lineup just right now. We're talking almost 15 years later, 12, 13 years later, right? And it's like you're looking at those guys like Beltre, Elvis Andrus, Ian Kinsler playing over there in the middle infield, man. Napoli, guys like that, Josh Hamilton, these are all just big household names during that time around just the state of Texas in general, right? The Astros weren't even in the picture. They were terrible, in the bottom of the barrel, right? And it was the Rangers. It was a Rangers state. It was a Rangers town, you know what I mean? And it's like we faced the Giants. We get our butts driven. We face the Cardinals, man, and we have what seems to be a World Series that's won with Nelly Cruz, right? He was the Adolis Garcia of that team. Of that postseason. And it's like you even had guys like David Murphy who were even a part of the team. Coming alive, kind of like how Tavares did for the Rangers this year, kind of in the postseason. And it's like, boom, you transition to 2023 and you got Adolis Garcia, you got guys like Corey Seager coming over from the Dodgers, already kind of known as a hotshot kid. It was already pretty cool. You got guys like, even look at the pitching staff. I don't think people understand how deep and how important your pitching staff has to be, right? To be able to compete in the postseason. Your pitching depth is almost, it's just like they say, defense wins championships, especially when it comes to sports like football. Your pitching staff is so essential to the entirety of the game, The Rangers lost DeGrom early on. I think DeGrom came over from, I want to say the Mets possibly. He was supposed to be the ace. But then you got the kid named Evaldi who kind of just takes over and comes alive. Has majority of the wins as an all-star, comes into the postseason, and is straight up reliable. Like you even can go back to Game 6 against the Astros and see how reliable Eovaldi truly was, stepping up in the clutch moments, stepping up in the big times, and throwing consistent pitches. Getting out of tight innings. I'm talking about first and second, second and third, first and third, tight innings, 2-out innings. And facing big guys like Alvarez, Altuve, and doing his job, throwing defensive balls, you know what I mean? Throwing balls that are, easy putouts. So it's like these guys in general, bro, the Rangers, the cast with Mike Maddox, setting up the pitching staff, getting those guys ready, even bringing on guys like Will Smith, who I think is the first player to win 3 World Series in a row with 3 different teams. And, funny thing, shout out to my buddy, Zach Nash, right? We're sitting in and we're chatting, we're talking about, baseball. He brings up Will Smith. I'm like, man, that name sounds familiar, not because of the actor, but just because, I am in Atlanta. We do have the Braves, which is, one of the most dominant forces. Speaking of the Braves, being juggernauts this year and falling off. So it's like you bring Will Smith into the picture, not even really, too big in the rotation in the postseason, but he gets a third World Series win. First with the Braves, then coming with the Astros from last year, goes from a rival to another rival and wins one with the Rangers. So it's like insanity if you want to be honest. But all together, man, the Rangers and that staff right there is just something to just be very proud of, especially if you're a Dallas native. And just breaking into the, some of their foes, like the Diamondbacks specifically. I mean, Luvolo or whatever. How forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, but the Diamondbacks manager, man, he showcased great ability to just play small ball, right? To lean towards your style of baseball, right? Honestly, in today's world of sports, a lot of people are starting to try to copycat, other coaches versus actually, playing your style of coaching, being and catering to your personnel of coaching, right? And that's what Lovullo did. And he used guys like, Carroll, young kid, stupid rookie, 23 years old, coming out, Perdomo, doing different things. Perdomo being the middle infielder, having the ability to lay sack bunts, from an offensive perspective. Getting guys like Ketel Marte in there, to hit home runs, right? And it's like, I'm just over here looking at some of their lineup, and even Longoria, having the vet in the making with Walker being kind of like that big hitter, in the middle of the lineup. So it's like the Diamondbacks were very respectable. They might have been, underdogs throughout the way. Especially, I'm pretty sure it's the first time in the series where both teams have been, predominantly underdogs all the way into the final, versus matchup. But the Diamondbacks were definitely a team to be very, respected, and they came out and they played hard. Even though the Rangers, we basically took the series 4-1. They came out and played hard. We were up, I think 11-1. I want to say it was game 5 or it was like game 3 or something like that. And these kids came back and actually, they only lost 11-7, so it was like the bats didn't die in their lineup. But the Rangers, all in all, man, shout out to the Rangers, bro. It was definitely exciting to watch that postseason race. I mean, like I said, looking at some of their matches, their matchups, going against the Rays 2-0, going against the Orioles 3-0, going against the Stros 4-3, and then finally against the Diamondbacks 4-1. So all in all, transitioning into other sports and things like that, right? I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I've been traveling, like I said earlier, quite a bit, so I haven't been able to be dialed in kind of like I really want to. But let's just talk about some of the other notable things that happened, kind of in this latter fall of the year, transitioning into the winter. Looking into women's sports, bro, the Las Vegas Aces come back with a back-to-back win, beating honestly, I'm not quite sure who they beat. Forgive me on that, but they come back with a back-to-back title win. Notable players like Kelsey Plum on that team, Asia Wilson, I believe, and it's just like these guys have fundamentally shown what it means to just be a cohesive unit just together, right? And we see that in women's sports, and that's a shout out to women's sports. These guys actually might have a chance of, copycatting or replicating what the Bulls did, as well as the Lakers, becoming three-peat champions. So hopefully we see that. Shout out to Three-Peat Feel Fresh album dropping soon. Shout out to that. Very, very amazing song with the three-peat. But moving on, the NBA just now kicking off. Topic of conversation, of course, I got to bring the Lakers into it, right? I'm a big Lakers fan. We kind of look shaky a little bit early on. A lot of people are saying guys that got, brought over to the Lakers like Gabe Vincent, who showcased great ability back earlier in, past history with their former teams, are not producing early on. But it's almost like, we're only in game 5, 4 and 5, right? So why be so critical early on? But it's like you got guys like Anthony Davis, still question mark if he's going to take over the reins. LeBron is basically verbalized and came out and said, this is your team. Like, the system and the farm is surrounding you. You are the Mecca, right? So trying to see if that guy's, if he's going to develop. But in other news, looking across the league, you got guys like Victor Wembanyama having some crazy stats coming out, some comparable to, I think David Robinson as a rookie. He's always got the comparables like that, and Tim Duncan, because of course he is with the Spurs, right? So it's like with the Spurs, Victor Wembanyama is always something that I'm probably going to tap into. Always got the Dallas Mavericks. Of course, I'm a Dallas man. Got to support the Dallas team. Just got the Lakers as just a random favorite like that. So looking for Victor Wembanyama, I'm interested in seeing how his season is going to pan out, if he's going to become Rookie of the Year and things like that. Also looking at other things like hockey season kicking off. I got a stupid hockey segment that's going to come for you guys with a buddy of mine that I actually graduated high school with. We're going to chop into hockey, bro, really break it down. So that should be coming out sometime within these next few segments. So all you hockey fans, I got a piece for you as well. I got a segment for you. So don't forget to chime into that. Should be hot fire, as they say back in the old times. But even looking at things like the NFL, right? I mean, the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce frenzy has been kind of outplayed in my opinion, but it's been a big piece of the NFL and what's going on with the Kansas City Chiefs. I believe the Chiefs are, I want to say either 6-2 or around there, right? Getting ready to transition into the further on in the season. It's like the big thing about the NFL is the AFC is stacked, but so is the NFC. I mean, NFC, you look at teams like the Cowboys, the 49ers, even the Eagles. The Cowboys and the Eagles are getting ready to have, I believe, America's game of the week. So big games all across the NFL. Baltimore looking like one of those juggernauts as well. Miami, different teams like that. Like, who's going to come out and who's going to basically become the cream of the crop when we look at the postseason. Of course, I'm a big Cowboys fan. Got to chop into the Cowboys. I'm really interested to see what Dak does this week against Jalen Hurts. I really want to see how he responds with the Cowboys not necessarily having as strong of a run game. I'm going to get on here and say that I think I was correct back in the old times when I said the Dallas Cowboys should have kept Ezekiel Elliott because he just fit the personnel. He fit just the entirety of the running back room. Like, people don't understand. Even though a player might have fell off, or even though you have a player that's just not, might not necessarily be the best athletically, if he fits your personnel, if he fits your fundamentals, it will ultimately propel your, team, your offense, your defense, whatever it may be, depending on the sport, right? But Ezekiel Elliott was definitely, he might not have been the same as when he came in as a rookie, when he came in right from Ohio State, but he definitely fit the protocol when it came to short and, third down and short, right? Giving Dak Prescott the ability to hand the football off, not have to do the QB sneak. Look at our red zone running game. It's honestly not up to par if we want to talk about being-postseason warriors, right? As Cowboys fans, we're chasing that Super Bowl. So it's like, you look at guys like Ezekiel Elliott, we miss him. Even though he's over there in New England, I don't think we have a running back. We kind of try to use Dowdy alongside Tony Pollard I don't think we have a running back that really is strong enough to consistently punch the football in when you're in the red zone as far as short yardage and terms like that. Like, you should be able to have the ability, in my opinion, as a true pro football offense, if you want to be one of the most dominant NFL realistic like offenses, you should have an offensive line and a run game that is serious enough that when you get to the red zone, you can run the ball 4 times in a row and be 100% successful almost every time, right? You look at the Philly Eagles, you look at Jalen Hurts and how they utilize the QB sneak. I believe they're like 98% or something around there, give or take, with a delta of, maybe 2. They're probably around 98% successful when you look at that QB sneak utilizing Jalen Hurts with the Philly Eagles. So the NFL always got a lot of things popping off, right? Kirk Cousins, torn Achilles, another thing to note down. That's the second major quarterback we see go down this year alongside Aaron Rodgers earlier on in the year. Even looking at guys like, Brock Purdy catching a concussion and things like that. Deshaun Watson being out, but just now being reinactivated for this week against the Cardinals. Different things to take down, different things to note. The Titans, questionable decisions on if they're offloading their big individuals like Derrick Henry, potentially. Starting guys like Will Levis, like, are they in rebuild? Are they fully giving in to, just a full rebuild situation? Atlanta Falcons, quarterback situation, is Ritter the guy? There's question marks, there's answers, there's, discussions all across the league when you look at each team and each team's dynamic. So, definitely looking to chop back into that, especially with this week, big game for the Cowboys. So stay tuned for another segment where I basically break down, the NFL and what's going on, right? Honestly, let me see. No, I don't. I thought I might have actually had this week's picks, but I'll save that for yet another segment. Looking into college football, right? Let's be honest, college football is starting to heat up, right? We're almost nearing the end of the season where you're actually going to start looking at college football playoff matchups. Got back into college football a couple years ago, and now I'm definitely super invested with the podcast going on. So, a couple of things, OU being upset by Kansas, a big Big 12 question mark right there with Kansas taking a loss to Texas. Some people thinking that Kansas might could have won that game, and then boom, OU snaps Texas in the Red River rivalry. Red River rivalry, forgive me for that hiccup right there, and then come back and lose. OU comes back and loses to Kansas, so it's just like, a lot of questionable decisions. UGA facing Missouri this week. Missouri coming in ranked number 12. UGA being stripped of their number 1 ranking. I think, which was honestly valid. Will they face Missouri? Will they beat Missouri? Missouri only having 1 loss to us, none other than the LSU Tigers, right? LSU having a humongous game coming up this week against, the Alabama Roll Tide. Shout out to Caleb Nichols. I think I did a little small poll, right, on the gram. If you haven't already followed the social media accounts, it's at All Day with JJ, ALLDAY. WITHJJ, right? You see that in the bottom. Should see it in the bottom right hand corner. Go ahead and find that and go ahead and like it, or go ahead and follow and like and subscribe. But shout out to Caleb Nichols. I did a little small poll on the gram asking if people really thought that Georgia had the ability to become a 3-peat champion, right? Shout out to 3-peat again, my boy Pharaoh Fresh. And one of those things I like to do is give fans a chance to comment or show their disagreements. Shout out to Hank. We just shot an episode with Mal. If you haven't already seen that, go back and check that out. A nice little family episode. Hank saying, he had a couple disagreements here and there. I love that. I love the feedback. I love fans coming on and telling me their thoughts. Don't forget to leave that in the comments. We're here for disagreements. We're here for discussion, right? So looking at college football, ultimately, shout out to PV, shout out to Prairie View A&M, all the HBCUs. PV's homecoming this week. Looking a little rough over there in the West. I think FAM's leading the East at 6-0, and Alcorn's leading the West at 4-1. Shout out to Alcorn, man. Never forget when we played against Alcorn, it was a tough game. Shout out to Steve McNair, things like that. So a lot of things going on in the sports world, man. Thinking I'm gonna probably cut this segment right around here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave your comments if you have disagreements. Jump in the comments and let me know why, right? Had a lot of things coming on as far as sports, so got a lot of things coming back on as far as weekly reviews, weekly episodes, weekly segments. And shout out to the Rangers, yes, once more. Hope everybody's doing good. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay peaceful, man. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy the rest of your holidays. Happy Thanksgiving, happy Christmas, and let's continue to dive into sports, man. Until next time, my boys.